Well, friends, what should you do before day one if you are a novice or you're a future homeowner who is relatively new to construction? How do you know you're ready for groundbreaking day? So, in this video, I will share some of the things that I've learned over the last couple of years that I've been doing construction work uh, to just make sure that homeowners are ready day one. Like I've shared in the past, most of this I really had no idea and had to learn the hard way, which in many cases simply meant time lost or money lost. So I'm going to let you in some of what happens before day one, so that if you're thinking about construction or if you're just about to start your project, at least you'll be aware of some of these things and you won't make the same mistakes as I have. But before we do that, good afternoon, family. It has been an amazing festive season for many folks, myself included. I've had a really great time this holiday. Yes, it's been super busy, but this has been one of the best holidays I've had in a few years. And like most folks, we've spent time with family, friends, meeting new people, old friends, crisscrossing the country, and just living the best life that the village has to offer. Those who've watched us in the past know that we film in Karating. Today we're in a slightly different location, and I'm going to share with you shortly. But typically we film from Karating, a village in Kisumu in Western Kenya, and that is my hometown. Now, everybody who's starting their year, I hope everything has started well, but those who are struggling, I hope the year will be kinder than the past one. Because unfortunately, there's been a few funerals here and there, mostly within our friend circle. Some are yet to be buried, others have been buried. And my heart really goes out to folks who've had a very tough time this holiday. And like I said, I'm hoping that this year would be far better than last year was. Now, besides family, I've also had a great time really working with many clients, doing different things from planning, land purchase, site visits, groundbreaking, and things like that. So today, I'm actually filming from Rongo in Western Kenya. Rongo is an amazing city, and this is actually where I went to high school, a high school called Kanyawanga High School, many years ago. So I'm back to this very special place to work with a client that whose work gives me a lot of joy. In fact, I say this is one of the clients whose project gives me so much joy, primarily because of her journey. At one point, she didn't think she would even build and own a home. But look where we are. Many months after planning and going back and forth. And by the way, this is one client who is super involved in every stage. And that has been really helpful because sometimes there are things that my team might miss and she catches on and vice versa. It's been beautiful. And I cannot wait to show you the end product. Anyway, so as I was saying earlier, I want to use this video to walk you through some of the things we do to get clients ready for day one. And so the point is, I want you to be able to do this on your own without necessarily relying on people like us. So join me and let's chat. Number one, almost everybody already knows that you don't just wake up and then head straight to groundbreaking. There's often quite a bit of prep work that goes in that may be obvious to some folks who are familiar with construction, but for people who are new to this, there's quite a few things that may not be very apparent to you. So I'm going to highlight about 15 things that you want to make sure are in place before day one, that is groundbreaking. Number one, you want to make sure that your chief mason, the chief fundi, or your quote-unquote engineer, has the most recent drawings with approvals. And this is one of the mistakes we made when we were building our house. I realized by the third day that the foundation that they were digging did not match what was on the drawings. And this happened because the consultant I was using did not give my mason the most recent version of our drawing. And we were just lucky that I had a very good sense of what the drawing looked like. So when they started digging the foundation, I could tell there was a problem. So yes, please make sure that on day one or a day before they begin digging, your mason has the most recent version of your home. So again, approvals are things that many of you already know will have to be done. especially if you are relatively closer to a major urban area. I've been told that some really deep rural areas where you're not building anything serious, you can get away with stuff. But when you don't have approval, it simply gives more opportunities for extortion from local authorities. So I say, get all the approvals you need, and just make sure that the permits are right as well. And especially if you're building a multi-story building, you want to make sure that you get all the permits necessary so that when those folks come in, they really don't have legitimate excuses to keep extorting you. Otherwise, they keep sending different teams, especially once they know there's a problem at one site. It's the same group of people. They send different teams and they will be extorting your folks the entire time. You want to avoid that. Now, for an average house in a small-sized town, you're looking at about 30K for the approvals and permits and all that. It could be more, it could be less, depending on the size or the type of house you're building. But typically it's 30K, but sometimes that may come with some enhancement, especially if you want to get your permit sooner or get it the same day. You may need to add even 5,000 or 10,000 more on top of the 30K to get all your stamps in place. Number two, make sure you have a functional site house that can store whatever you need and has space for fundis if they need to stay there. Now, I know some people don't provide that, but it's just, I think it's something good to offer accommodation on site if you can. Some people actually offer rental houses for fundis where they rent. Personally, I prefer building a site house where fundis can actually stay. Number three, make sure you have a reliable water source. Many folks already have wells day one. Many folks already have tanks on site. And even if you have a well, I still recommend please have a tank on site, because more often than not, you will run out of water, especially on days that you have major construction work. So make sure your water source is secured and have your Bowser guys on standby so you could easily call them and have them deliver water. Number four, your power source. Make sure you either have, I usually recommend, there's a small solar system that allows fundis to use some light and to be able to charge their phones. If you can put that, you can always make a local arrangement with your neighbor who already has power to give you access. So make sure you have a power source for fundis, for security. And there may be some equipment that actually requires power. However, most of them actually use diesel. So talk to your neighbor, tag in the line, or just buy a very small solar unit that can provide lighting and, most importantly, can provide fundis with a place to charge their phones. Sanitation, make sure you have a toilet and a place for trash. Number six, make sure that you talk about how you're going to use the space within your property, because as you dig your foundation, you'll be delivering materials. Some of these spaces are so tight that you want to be very thoughtful as to what materials comes first. For example, this site that we're working on is very tight. And so any material that is not needed immediately will not be delivered. So we only deliver materials that are required at this stage. So make sure you have a good plan for site management based on size, and then existing plans. You want to make sure that you're very clear with the folks on the ground to be very careful not to destroy the plants that are already on site, especially the beautiful trees that are along the perimeter wall. Please make sure you remind them over and over again to take care of the plants on site. And then you make sure you have a good plan for excavation. Typically, most of the folks that I work with don't include the cost of excavation, because again, the wild card here is you don't know how much it's going to cost you to do excavation. So make sure you have a plan for it. And in some cases, you may need to organize a place to haul all that stuff and put it somewhere, especially the stuff that will not go back into the foundation. So talk about it with your folks, and then have a plan for what we call kanjo, or the local authorities, because they will show up. And whether or not you have all the permits, they will always ask for something. They'll say, okay, you're good, but can we get some tea? So have a plan with that. Make sure all your plans are approved. And usually you may have maybe 1,000 or 2,000, anywhere between 1,000 and 5,000 shillings ready, just in case there's a need for that. But you want to have one of those guys on standby, especially on phone, people you can call to have that sorted out. Number 11, make sure that you talk about site management in terms of deliveries and safety. And especially, I tell folks, the people who work at your site come with bags. have a designated place where all the bags are put. So that way there's no chance that somebody is going to steal something, stick it in their bags, and take off. Now, there may be religious or cultural issues at play, especially when you're building on ancestral land. Talk about it. Do you need to bring in your pastor, or do you need to organize certain cultural rituals? Talk about it, clarify it, so that your fundis know exactly what they're doing. Because sometimes we work with fundis that come from communities other than our own. They may not be familiar with some of our rules. So clarify those for the fundis so they know exactly what to do and they don't make mistakes. Now, with food, it's all entirely up to the client. Personally, I don't provide food. I can talk to folks who will deliver food for purchase, but I don't provide food. In some rural areas, they actually provide food, but it's entirely up to the client. Because food can be tricky. It's an added expense that may be really difficult to manage on top of everything else you're managing. Because at some point, you may have up to 50 or even up to 100 people working on site. The logistics of providing food for that many people is often, for me, beyond my capacity. So I tell folks, make local arrangements with folks that will deliver food. There's always people who are willing to cook and bring food. Or they're just random folks who, once they see a construction site, they will bring food. But at least have them talk about that. Then number 14, make sure you have the basic tools and implements. For example, wheelbarrows, spades, hammers, and things like that. Because on day one, you will actually need to haul stuff. So there's a list of specific implements and tools that have to be put in place, but the foodies will also bring their own. So go through that, make sure you have everything you need day one. Typically, clients have existing tools like wheelbarrows, but you want to check whether the numbers are sufficient. If not, organize to have them on site day one. And then lastly, there will be a profile done to set the house. So you want to make sure you have materials for the profile, and that is typically poles, nails, and markers. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you in the next. Thank you. Bye.